There are 3 different techniques in Chon Ji tool: middle punch in walking stance, outer forearm low block in walking stance, and inner forearm middle block, which is done in L stance. Now, I've shown you how to do these techniques before in previous lessons, so now I just need to show you how to put these movements together in the correct sequence and how to form the diagram of the pattern. The diagram is just the path you follow when you do the pattern. Now, if you remember when we did 4-direction punch and 4-direction block, we also followed a certain diagram. It was the shape of a cross, because we turn 90 degrees each time in all 4 directions. Chon Ji tool also makes a diagram of a cross, but the way it follows that path is slightly different. It involves 90-degree turns as well as 180-degree turns. So I'm going to show you how to do these turns before I proceed to show you how to do Chon Ji tool. Now, one of the turns is from walking stance to walking stance, and you turn 90 degrees anti-clockwise. All the 90-degree turns in Chon Ji are done anti-clockwise. So start from a walking stance position with the left leg in front, and then you go back onto the rear leg into a balanced position. Remember to keep the foot just slightly off the ground and bend the rear leg so that you're relaxed and balanced. Now, your rear foot should pivot at this point. Pivot slightly. I tend to pivot about 40 degrees. I find that's the right amount for me. And then turn another 50 degrees as I drop into walking stance. So you can repeat this many times. Pivot about 40 degrees and then another 50 to do 90. Pivot and pivot. So keep going round, turning many times round. And once you've got used to that, start adding the outer forearm low block, which is the technique that goes with this turn. So from a low block position, you balance and then wind up as you block. Turn, relax, balance. Turn, and just keep repeating this turn. So you're in a relaxed neutral position here, and then as you do the final turn, as you drop, you'll be able to utilize the hip jerk. That's why you need to pivot at the end. That helps your lower abdomen to turn and generate more power. So practice this many times. And then the other turn is from walking stance to L stance. So from a walking stance position, you go back and pivot again 40 degrees. And you'll notice that the rear foot is already in the right position for the L stance. So all you need to do is just drop the front leg into L stance. And as you do that, you don't want to go forward because you need to keep 70% of the weight on the rear leg. So you just drop down and just bring the leg forward. So it feels like your body's just dropping straight down. There's hardly any forward motion. So go back to walking stance and repeat. Pivot about 40 degrees and drop. Repeat again from walking stance. Pivot as you lower yourself and then up, down. Okay, and one more time. Pivot and drop. Okay. Now you can add the middle block, inner forearm middle block that goes with this stance. So from this position, you go into a neutral position. Your foot's already there, so you just come up, wind up, and then drop. Now you can't twist the rear foot anymore because it's already in the right position. So you get power by turning the upper abdomen rather than the lower abdomen as you did with low block. So it feels as though you're just jerking the shoulders. So you turn into a neutral position and see, jerk the shoulders very fast. That will add a bit of speed and power to the technique. So go from a punching position, because that's how it's done in the pattern, in walking stance. And then go back into a neutral position and drop down into the block. So repeat again. Pivot into a neutral position, up, down. One more time. Relax, up, down, like that. So practice this going around many times just to get used to it. Now the other turns are done 180 degrees, and these are all done clockwise. So you have to have your right leg forward in walking stance. Pull your front leg back and turn 90 degrees more than before. So you'll end up doing about 130 degree turn, and then raise and drop into walking stance. So stay low as you pivot, then up, down. Keep the heel off the ground so you make sure you pivot with the ball of the foot. You never pivot with the heel. That doesn't have much control. With the ball of the foot, you always have much more control. So in all patterns in Taekwondo, always pivot with the ball of the foot. So repeat this many times. Up, down. Keep the foot slightly off the ground all the time. And then you can start adding the low block that goes with the turn. So from here, you go into a neutral position, come up to wind up and drop, utilizing the abdomen jerk at the end as we did when we turned the other way 90 degrees. Now the other turn is from walking stance to L stance. So from a walking stance position, you pivot 130 degrees, your foot's already in the right position, so you just drop into the L stance. So repeat this many times, pivot, and it's just the same. The last part of this turn is just the same as when we did the 90 degree turn. It's just that initial turn is a lot more, then you're in the same position. And then utilize the middle block with that technique. So starting from a punching position, get into neutral position and use the shoulders to get power. So repeat that many times. And now you're ready to do Chon Ji, which starts from a parallel ready stance. The first movement is going to your left, doing a walking stance, low block. So you balance on the right foot, and at this point you should pivot about 15 degrees. And then twist into the low block. And you follow each low block with a punch, like that. The next turn's 180 degrees, and then again a punch. If you don't remember which way to turn, there's an easy way. If you're punching with the left, the next turn is to your left, which means you're going anti-clockwise. So you do a 90 degree turn. And if you punch with the right, it means you have to turn to the right, which means you're going clockwise. So it's a 180 degree turn. And then followed by a punch. Now at this point, you've done 4 low blocks and 4 punches. So that's the first part of the pattern. The second part involves middle block in L stance, followed by a punch in walking stance. So you've got your left arm in front, so it means you turn 90 degrees to the left, and then go forward to punch. So you follow each middle block with a punch as well. Then you turn 180 to the right, followed by a punch. The next turn's to the left, and then you're punching with the right, so you turn to the right 180, do the 4th middle block and the 4th punch, following it. So now you've done the second part of the pattern, but there's a little bit more to add. You do an extra punch forward and 2 extra going backwards. And then you return to parallel ready stance, moving the left leg forward. And now I'll demonstrate Chon Ji. But before that, let me mention about the naming of the Taekwondo patterns. Each of the 24 patterns has a name to represent a heroic figure in Korean history, or an instant of an historical event, or a philosophical idea. And even the number of movements or the diagram of the pattern may have a symbolic meaning, for example, a historical date. So take note of what Chon Ji means. It means heaven and earth. So this is Chon Ji. Chon Ji. And that's Chon Ji. And the next few lessons, I'm going to show you some new techniques for the yellow belt and green tag syllabus to prepare you for Dangun Tul, Dosan Tul, and 3-step sparring. So I hope you join me for those. If you like the content of my videos, don't forget to press a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. So I look forward to seeing you next time. Goodbye for now.